Hi, so I'm here with Chloe, who is the manager of the Youth Pride Network and who has very kindly agreed to participate in what is our second interview or long form conversation about building social cohesion in our community. And so, Chloe, I'm going to kick off with a question about what does social cohesion mean to you?
Thanks for having me, Katrina. When I was thinking about what this means to me, I really went back to my university
Okay.
days, which is great. But I think yes, it's for me like social cohesion is not a word that I think we use a lot in conversation. But when you actually sit down and think about it, for me, it really is the like acts like the glue
Hmm.
in any sort of like community or society. Um, and I guess for me personally, like looking inside those groups of people that share common values, beliefs, and goals and passions, there also does exist diversity within that group as well. Yeah, I guess for me, glue, but diversity, like shared passions and goals doesn't always equal that you're all going to look and act and all the same things. It's the social cohesion is that brings about the belonging and connectedness, which ultimately plays into all of our like emotional well-being and
Yeah.
safety and mental health. I think as human beings, we really crave that connectedness, and social cohesion is the act that brings it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very human quality and a human desire,
Mm.
really, that kind of sense of connectivity and cohesion and belonging.
Mm.
So what does social cohesion look like, particularly for the LGBTQIA plus community?
Yeah, great question. I guess for me and what I hear from other queer folks, is a big one is your chosen family. So
Yeah.
choosing the people that accept you for you, if that is not your biological family, and that is like a really close knit group of friends. It also can look like within that chosen family, it can look like the forms of support that we provide for
Right.
each other and the mutual aid. I think that's really, really big that exists within the queer community. And then the community spaces that we create as LGBTQ plus young people, having to create safe spaces to where we can go and be authentically
Yeah.
ourselves. And queer safe spaces have a really, really long history. It's actually what I wrote my last essay on in
Okay.
university is the queer safe spaces, historically, what they have meant, particularly, you'll see in the ballroom, black ballroom scene, just like how important that was. And they really did exist without any interference from the rest
Yeah.
of wider society. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chloe, tell us about what are some of the threats we're seeing to and for social cohesion for the LGBTQI plus community currently, whether that be globally or locally.
Yes. It's a really intense time right now for the community. But yeah, when we're thinking globally, so we're thinking about the ways in which political leaders use minority communities as scapegoats. This is really harmful for the community in the area. So, if we're thinking about currently right now, Trump, who
Yeah.
is in
Oh.
a leadership role, like what is happening there for the safety of community would be really, really devastating. But look, it's what people do when leaders are making statements about certain communities when they really should be leading the way and standing
Yeah.
up for those who are in need of it, of help, and all of these different things and impacts to the community. So we're seeing people take hold of these narratives,
Yeah.
and it is fueling and empowering people to spread misinformation about the LGBT community, and that trickles down into local levels. And yeah, most recently we've seen a really rise over the last year or so in hate and discrimination, particularly in online spaces. Um, and unfortunately in offline spaces as well. For the Youth Pride Network, there has been a real target in using these tactics of information to kind of intimidate organizers into shutting down community spaces. Sort of forcing fear into the organizers to get them to for it to not go ahead, basically. Um, the other huge one at the moment, in terms of threats to that social cohesion, whether it's in person or online, is the social media age restrictions for the under 16-year-olds. Particularly in our regional areas. What we know is that these online spaces can be lifelines for queer young people. And, it's important to remember on top of all of this, like, as I mentioned at the beginning, like the diversity within the queer community, there are people that are living with intersectional and diverse identities, whether that is First Nations, living with a disability. There are going to be compounding factors at play when we're talking about threats. So discrimination on identity-based mixed with racism is an extra compounded threat. Yeah.
So can you describe for us, like, what is the human impact of those kind of threats that we perhaps hear from, political leaders or, other, I guess, bad faith actors, for want of a better term? Like what does that do to individual members of the LGBTQIA plus community?
It can be harmful in so many different ways. As I sort of just alluded to, like online um, harassment and hate and discrimination can also translate into the real world. So we're seeing a spike in physical violence for our community. Um, it also means, and particularly like what we hear a lot from young queer people, it makes it difficult for everyday things such as accessing services, vital services, feeling affirmed in school, workplace like equality. Um, and then there's also intimate partner and domestic violence that can exist as well, like threats of outing is a big one. And, this all leads to poorer mental health outcomes for our community. We know within like so many areas of research that young trans and gender diverse people are the most at risk of suicide. And that's just the reality. It is really dark, but that is what it leads to. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I think a big part of how we can build social cohesion is through empathy and understanding and better informing ourselves. So what would you like people to know or understand about navigating the world as a young LGBTQIA plus person?
Yes. So I'm taking this from a young person that I heard speak on an Ida Halbert panel yesterday, but it was like a really, really, really great reminder, which we hear from queer individuals all the time. But it's really just fundamental to understand that LGBTQI plus queer people have been around forever. It's not something new or something trendy that we've just decided to like bring in. It has literally existed forever. Um, I would also like to add to that, like our identities, we are real human beings, and our identity should not be up for any sort of political debate. And then my next point is around safety. So safety is huge. Queer people and within the acronym are going to be assessing their safety in various different ways on a day-to-day basis. So that can be from, as soon as leaving the house, where the appointment they're going to, the transport they're taking. They're constantly having to assess, am I going to be safe here?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I would say respect. Like, respect is a really big thing that I think that we can all understand what that means and what that can look like. And even if there is difficulty in understanding certain terminology, or just feeling like it's hard to learn or understand right now, I think that there can be a basic line of respect for each other as human
Yeah.
beings
Yeah.
navigating this world. Queer people, have all of these additional barriers that they're coming up against, but they're also trying to pay rent,
Yeah.
go to the shops, insurances, a car breaks down. Like, we're just doing the exact same things,
Doing life.
just doing life. So yeah.
So how do you think we can get better then at building people's empathy and understanding?
Yeah. And there is so much power in just listening, actively listening to stories. It's something that we do at the Youth Pride Network. Like, everything is youth led. And these lived experience stories are driving the work that we do. So where we can, is share those stories, and it's really important to listen, and not have to add or anything, or just really listening and listening to the struggles of the community. And then this is a big one that I think it comes up all the time for us in advocacy, and the things that we're talking about is, for our allies to just learn with curiosity. Um, you know, eh, I think rather than being fearful of saying or asking the wrong thing, just testing it out and trying it. I mean, at least in our training sessions, we make it open that, like, no question is a bad question. You're
Yeah.
here to learn with safe, and safe facilitators, and we want you to learn and grow. Um, so just being really open to learn about identities that are different from your own.
Yeah. So listening, respect, curiosity. And I'm a social worker by trade, and I just think that stories are so powerful. It is. Well, you talked about glue before. I think stories are one way that we kind of um, the idea of story as glue, bringing us together, story as web, connecting us together. And there's this idea as well of story as light, so story kind of shining a light on pathways that, might be hidden or unknown, or, and a kind of, story can show us the way a little bit. Um, do you have a last message, I guess, for people who are listening, including some of our political leaders and allies? What would you like to ask of us?
I'm going to say, you just bring it back to young people. Like, young people have so much to say, and they have so much to say about the policies and decisions that are impacting them. So, where possible, to include them, get them involved. The Youth Pride Network obviously exists, so we have an avenue to bring those voices to decision makers. But young people can tell when things have been designed for them that was not by them. So just include them, please.
Include it and listen. Yeah. Yeah. Chloe, thank you so much for your time today, but also importantly for all the work that you do through the Youth Pride Network. Thank you.
Thank you.